All right, for today's video review, we're going to be finishing off our look here at the Combiner Wars Combaticons and taking a look at Onslaught, and then also, of course, the combined Bruticus mode. And yeah, Onslaught is a fairly fun figure here. He turns into this kind of like weird, long armored truck thing, and there is a reason for why he is this. But yeah, it's not quite exactly like his original alt mode, which was more of like a truck with like a long, trailer to like carry blast off or whatever. But yeah, no, just generally an armored vehicle here. We really haven't returned much to that original alt mode for Onslaught, since since the 80s, because they've kind of made him like different military vehicles since then. But yeah, it's an okay mode here. He obviously does come with two guns. They're the same guns that came with a hotspot, because yes, this actually is a pretty heavy retool of the hotspot mold, believe it or not. But yeah, to store these, you can just plug them up top here, which gives them a little bit extra armament, and actually I feel like kind of completes the look of the vehicle mode. There also just distracts from the obvious giant head kind of sitting out of his at the top of his vehicle mode here. But yeah, it's an okay vehicle mode. It rolls okay. I find for whatever reason on this one, which I don't really have this problem with hotspot, but this bit just like folds down ever so slightly, and I can't quite get it setting so that like these wheels actually like significantly touch the ground unless you like really push it down. He also does have this huge gap right here, which is kind of unsightly, but whatever. But yeah, it's an okay vehicle mode, all things considered. In terms of comparisons in this mode, for standard deluxe, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, which yeah, I mean, obviously this is kind of a fictional vehicle, but just the size of like the windows in here and like this little door sculpted on the side, like he is much too small to scale with figures like Sideswipe there. And likewise here he is with for Voyager class comparison. He's a leader, I know, shut up. But there they are together, and yeah, it doesn't really work because this thing is like pretty small. Like that's kind of the size of like a regular size car in comparison, whereas the thing really should be kind of huge. But yeah, it's an abstract enough vehicle mode that I guess you can kind of forgive it. But yeah, that's what they look like together. For another Onslaught comparison, here he is with Universe 2.0 Onslaught, who you can see is like, yeah, I think size-wise, I like this guy better. Obviously, neither of them really turned into what Onslaught originally turned into, but, just kind of keeping the heavily armored vehicle aesthetic. I feel like they both look good, but this is just a much better, nicer looking alt mode overall. Here he is with Combiner Wars Hotspot, so you can see all the things that were really changed for him. Basically, the whole thing is just flipped around. Like, the main structure here and here and, in the body is more or less the same. Just instead of like the like window sections here, he just has his little flip out feet, which just kind of fold up like that. And then where the combiner board's attached on him, he also has these extra flip out pieces to kind of sit on top and kind of make this look like the front of the vehicle, even though it is, largely the same pieces as Hotspot. So as a result of this, just like Hotspot, his fists are kind of just hanging out, whereas with Hotspot, at least they were in the back. With Onslaught, they're kind of just like right front and center, which is a little awkward, but whatever. But yeah, honestly, neither of these are like amazing vehicle modes, but it is kind of clever how they were able to kind of flip it around like that. And then last but not least, here he is with the other Combiner Wars Combaticons that we've taken a look at, so you can see the full team there together. Obviously, the scale is kind of all over the place, but I feel like they still look good together overall. And yeah, to get onto transformation, I'm just going to leave the guns on because that's where I tend to store them in robot mode as well. But yeah, first thing we want to do, so we can just flip these pieces up. I kind of just flip them up like this for this mode, because if you flip them up any more, then they kind of like pull down in the waist section and it doesn't seem very good for it. Then you can take the back section here. We can kind of split it down the middle like this, and then just unhinge the legs like that. You do want to make sure to like push this joint in like that, so it collapses up kind of like that, if you can actually see in there, and then it will actually like lock into place there and just be using one of the knee joints, not both of the double joints there. And then we can flip out his heel here and then flip down his toe. and then rotate the whole leg around at the thigh, and just do that on both sides here. Again, you kind of have to push the joints in there so they cooperate and then click into place. And then we can take his arm sections here. They'll just split down the middle, come down to the side, and you want to rotate them like this. Rotate down the forearms here, and then just take these little, like, you know, canopy sections and just fold them down to the side of his shoulders. Take this panel, open it up, flip out his head, and then there we have Onslaught in his robot mode. Obviously gonna have to adjust the camera here. And yeah, his robot mode looks pretty good, I think. I definitely, I feel like this body type fits Onslaught very well. They've got a lot of nice detail on here. And you can also, like, what I generally do with the guns is I usually just, like, angle them up like that, just so the backpack sits a little bit more compressed. But yeah, he does have kind of a large backpack there. But yeah, in terms of articulation, the head is on a swivel. It is also on, well, it might be technically on a ball joint, I don't know, but it really only gets a swivel's range, and you can kind of bob it up and down just on that transformation joint, though it is kind of supposed to lock in place notionally. The shoulders here are on nice ratchet joints, which can rotate around like that, and then go out to the side. They can also go out to the side at this joint here, so you can kind of use those in tandem so that you're not just, like, you know, bumping him in the head with his shoulder chunk there. Obviously, it kind of bumps into the backpack stuff sometimes, but he's got a bicep swivel kind of in between two of his elbow joints, because he does have an elbow here and an elbow here for transformation, so you can use those both in tandem, and the thigh swivel, or the bicep swivel, is in between those, which is a little strange, but it's fine. Nothing at the waist, just because of how all this works. The hips can click forward and back and out to the side. They do end up becoming the Bruticus hips there, so they're supposed to be kind of strong. I don't know how strong they really are in this direction, but they are pretty strong in this direction. Though he does kind of have the thing where it's just like, okay, he's sculpted in a slight A stance here, but if you bring his leg even one click out to the side, he's like all the way out like that, and it looks kind of stupid, but whatever. He's got a thigh swivel, a very deep knee bend for transformation, and again, that's still only using that one single joint in there. And then, like I said, his feet are just kind of sculpted in that A stance. You can kind of like bring his toe up, I guess, like a click if you want to do it like that, but you know, I don't find that overly useful. But again, it's just one of those things where it's just like, okay, you're pretty much getting them like this or in some like really wild action pose, but there's not like really much in between because of how the leg ratchets work, unfortunately. But you know, it's not terrible. At least with some figures like that, you know, they really don't even look good when their legs are stock straight, and I think he does, so I'm not too bothered by it. Obviously, you can just unpeg the weapons here and give him his guns to hold if you want, and it looks okay. Again, they're just the same kind of guns that, you know, came with Hotspot, which are kind of mildly sculpted to be like water guns or something, but I actually do think generally the big guns work better on him, but they do kind of have this like water hose aesthetic with like the handle to pull back and the hose here, but you know, it still works if you just kind of recontextualize those details. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, just for the standard ones, here he is with Sideswipe and Optimus Prime, so you can see a little taller than Earthrise Optimus Prime, but yeah, so decently sized figure there. Here he is again with Universe Onslaught, who's quite a bit bigger because he was like a ultra class or whatever it is they were calling them at the time. And yeah, you know, I definitely remember at the time getting this guy felt like kind of a downgrade to the to like the individual mode for Onslaught, just because this guy was so massive and I like his vehicle mode a lot. But, you know, I think, you know, with the benefit of hindsight, one, I mean, this guy gets a lot of points for literally just being able to combine it all, whereas this guy doesn't. And this guy's vehicle mode is definitely nicer, but I do think that this is a better looking robot mode overall. You know, it's definitely smaller, but it fits in scale with most other figures anyway. But just proportions wise, I think it works a little bit better for Onslaught here, but they're both good. Here he is again with Hotspot, so you can see what the two of them look like together. Again, you can see all the things that were changed here. New head, obviously, new tooled like chest piece there. The shoulders are different. The arms and the lower legs, well, really the entire legs are the same, except for just like the feet here. Also, like Hotspot, I mean, he has these two, these little tiny sculpted heel support things, but Hotspot doesn't actually have the other heels in for whatever reason. He even has like the joint for them, but I guess they just thought it was good enough to like use his backpack as a third leg. And actually, he stands up okay, and probably Onslaught would stand up okay without those as well. It's just a little bit tipsy, so I'm glad that they did add extra heel support for him when they did it that way. But yeah, you know, they both look good. Both of them are definitely kind of departures from their original selves, but you know, this has always been one of the kind of better looking Combiner Wars torso mode, like individual robot modes. So yeah, they work pretty well together. And then, of course, last but not least, here he is with the full, I almost said Stunticons, Combaticons team here. So you can see what all 5 of them look like together. And yeah, it's a pretty good looking crew, especially in robot mode, except for Brawl. Just feel like he should be a lot beefier. Maybe he should be a little less beefy. I don't know. But I complained about that in Brawl's video, but yep, that's what they look like together. And then, of course, last but not least, it's time to actually show off how the full combined mode works. So to start off the transformation for that, you just want to flip this open and put his head away, and then close that back up. He works a little bit different from Hotspot, but you know, I'll cover that in a future video. I feel like you just want to take his arms and double joint them up like this, and they'll just tab into the shoulder joints like that. And then you want to take these whole section. Well, actually, first you want to take this section and rotate it around like that. You want to take this piece and bring it down, and it will just lock into the body there. And then you can bring this backpack piece around and just fold it to the back like that. You want to take the shoulder chunks, rotate them up like this, so the robot mode forearms are facing forward like that. Then you can take the guns here and just rotate them around on this joint so they sit properly on his back like they're supposed to. And then you take these bits here, the little extra bits that have like the, you know, vehicle mode canopy, and they will kind of unlock from here to reveal the combiner port, flip around like that, and then just sit in the back of the arm like that, which is you know, kind of completes out the shoulder chunk fairly nicely there, which is cool to see. Then you want to take the legs, just put away the heels and the toes, pretty much just collapse them back up how they were for vehicle mode, but instead of pegging them together, just rotate them 90 degrees so they sit like that instead. Then you can take this little waist piece here, and it will double hinge down and just sit over the waist there like that. And then these bits will lock into place here, but you actually have to leave those open for now so that you can actually combine the other bits here. So we'll just get the other limbs up and ready. First, we'll just bring on Swindle and Brawl here, and then obviously they just use the classic Combiner Wars port here and attach into the legs, just like that. And obviously he's going to get quite a bit taller here, so we'll have to adjust the camera. And then we can bring on our arm bots here, and then like I said, you just want to slot them in and then close this up to kind of lock it in place. And then we can kind of get him adjusted here. And yeah, there is one kind of issue that I have with him right off the bat, is that he really leans forward just because of the kind of like give and play of the like little, you know, the ratchets there in the hips. So what I generally do for him is I click one back and keep the other one, because if you click it both back, then he kind of leans way back like that. But if you click just one back, you can kind of use the play there to kind of like even it out a little bit and have him stand up a bit more straight. And yeah, that's about as good as we can get here. As you can see, it's still a little bit awkward, but at least he's kind of, you know, not toppling over. And there we have Bruticus in his full combined mode. And generally, I think he looks pretty good, especially like the way that the torso turned out. I love the way the head sculpt looks. Obviously, he's got pretty classic, you know, Combiner Wars combiner articulation. The head is on a ball joint here, so it can rotate around, and he does get a little bit of wiggle back and forth. And then the rest of it is just kind of like the regular articulation of both his hips and then the combiners there. I don't think it's really necessary to show all that off again. But yeah, like I said, the one big thing about him is just he never really feels totally stable standing up, and it doesn't really feel natural to have one clicked back and one clicked forward, because this is how it wants to sit, which is like that. And really you just kind of like adjust it so it's kind of like the ratchets are kind of fighting against each other so that he isn't just like, you know, leaning forward or leaning back. And like, you know, like you can kind of get the give and play in the ratchets to like make it look good when both are kind of clicked back and he's kind of doing that like, you know, hero pose or whatever. But really it's just, oh, there goes Blastoff's gun there. Just had it pegged into the side of the arm. But yeah, it's just a little bit awkward, I would say, unfortunately. And then, yeah, like he is one of the torsos too. Like Superion is like the only one that really gets this right, or at least, you know, the ones that use the Silverbolt mold. But unfortunately, like you kind of have to have his arms kind of clicked out to the side like that, because when you bring them like actually attached into the body, like just stock up and down, they're like really cramped up against him. So you sort of have to have them one click off to the side, which again, you know, there's just not enough teeth in the ratchets to make that look good. And then you know, to kind of balance them out, I usually click these back and kind of bend the elbows a little bit. So he's kind of like bending his arms in, and it looks okay, but you know, it's definitely a little bit awkward. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, just for the standard ones again, here he is with Sideswipe and Optimus Prime, obviously much taller than they are. And again, he's still like leaning forward a little bit too. I guess it works better to have Brawl be the leg that's kind of leaning back, but again, just a little bit less stable than you'd sort of want him to be. But that's what he looks like with them. For a commander class size comparison, here he is with Jetfire. So you can see a little shorter than Jetfire there, and I definitely feel like Bruticus could be a lot more, you know, bulky and lumbering. And then here he is with our most recent combiner with Legacy Menasor. And yeah, you can see, I definitely think the Bruticus should be a bigger combiner than Menasor, if not just about the same size. Yeah, Menasor is a bit bigger, but you know, hopefully we'll be getting a new Bruticus at some point. Like I've said, we do have leaked listings for a new Swindle Deluxe next year. Again, I sort of feel like the Combaticons would work better as like, you know, 4 Voyagers and a leader rather than 4 Deluxes in a commander class, which I think worked really well for the Stunticons because it got to answer the question of like what's going on with, you know, Motormaster's trailer. Does he turn into like a full robot from just the truck or the trailer? And that, you know, like it makes perfect sense for Menasor to do it this way. I don't really think it makes a ton of sense for any of the other 3 Scramble City combiners. I sort of feel like the rest of them should just all be like Voyagers and a leader, or, you know, some creative solution other than the way that they did it for this. But it, you know, I'm not going to judge that too much until we actually see how it turns out, because maybe it'll be a lot better. I don't know. But you know, for now, he's a fine looking stand-in, but he's definitely one of the kind of like weaker, physically weaker combiners in terms of him just being able to like stand up and look okay. Like it, you know, it kind of works a little bit better with the hotspot version with Defensor for whatever reason. Like the hips are just a little bit stronger, I guess. And with Victorion, I think the hips are actually a little weaker, but that kind of allows you to kind of like do both clicks back and make her look okay when she's kind of doing that pose. And that does look okay with Bruticus too. It's just like when you look at him from the side, it's just like, yeah, he's just leaning back a little bit more than you'd like him to. But yeah, you know, like I said, looks good generally, could have some improvements, but really it's just those hips that are kind of rough with him. But yeah, that pretty much finishes off our look at the Combiner Wars Combaticons here. Obviously, you know, you could switch around the limbs. I'm not going to show you how to do that. There's also different orientations for how you do these. If you like switch Blastoff's arms around, these peg in a little bit better. You can do the stock transformation for Swindle, where the hood of the truck is like up here. Yada yada, etc., etc. This is just generally how I like to do it personally. And then of course there's like add-on kits that give you better looking hands and feet. But you know, here he is stock, and yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Combiner Wars, Onslaught, and Bruticus. If I can get him standing up here. Come on. Yeah.